Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be taking a look at the upcoming Season of Blood for Diablo 4, and we're going to be taking a quick look at the upcoming patch 1.1.3 coming this week. Getting started with Season of the Blood, it is confirmed that we are fighting vampires. Not only are we fighting vampires, but we are actually going to be becoming them. And with this, we have some new gameplay and updates to talk about. The first being 5 new endgame bosses. Now here we have new and returning foes for additional endgame content and challenges. Overall, this is going to be great. I have been begging for more bosses and more endgame content for a very long time. Now, time will tell if this is going to be enough endgame content, or if it will get dry like Season 1 and Preseason have gotten. Really, time will only tell. Now, my best guess is that we're going to be getting 2 seasonal bosses and 3 returning bosses, probably uber bosses returning from the campaign. People that we've already fought, just remastered basically. Now another thing we're talking about is better target farming of uniques and uber uniques. Now this is something I'm really glad to see, because if you get lucky enough to get an uber unique or a unique to drop, is going to determine what builds are viable in the end game. You might want to run a certain build, but it's not possible due to the fact that you haven't gotten the unique required for that build. So with that, better targeting of these uniques will make it easier for you to specify which build you want to run, and it won't rely on RNG as much. Overall, this is a good change that I am glad they are bringing to the game. Next up, we have renown rewards. Rewards will carry over when completed on any prior character beyond Altars of Lilith and map discovery. Basically, what this means is that renown is a thing of the past if you have done it one time. So basically, if you get on right now in Season 1, do all of your renown in all of the zones, you'll be done with renown forever. So this includes potion charges, skill points, the cap upgrades, and the paragon points. So everything that really matters in the season, renown will be done for you. You don't have to worry about it in future seasons. I'm okay with this change. I don't think it was really necessary to completely remove renown, but overall, this is going to make a lot of the more casual players much happier with the season, and so I'm glad that they're making this change overall. Now also coming in Season 2, we have some changes to the status effects. Updated elemental resistance system. And now if you're not aware, the resistance system in the game is currently broken. And I mean really broken. Like for instance, sorcerers are extremely weak if not built correctly, because their resistances just aren't working. And so they apparently are claiming to have fixed the resistance system and are updating it so that in Season 2 resistances will work correctly. Now, I have a few ideas about this. I think that when this change happens, a few of the classes are going to be completely busted, one of them being Sorcerer. I think they're going to be incredibly strong and almost unkillable, because they gave Sorcerer a ton of survivability since the resistances weren't working, and I don't think Blizzard is going to bring that down when resistances start working, so I think Sorcerer is going to be absolutely busted in Season 2 and incredibly strong. But, you know, that's just a guess from now, and we'll have to see what holds in the future. Now, in addition, vulnerable, overpower, and critical strike damage updates are happening as well. Basically, they're doing an overhaul on the vulnerable, overpower system and the critical strike system. Now, we don't have a ton of details on what this actually means, but if it makes the game more consistent and better, I'm obviously here for it. You know, of course, they're going to be introducing a ton of optimization and, you know, just a small gameplay and UI updates. So hopefully this does actually make a change for the better, and they don't introduce a ton of bugs along with it, even though I think we all know the answer to that bugs are definitely going to be present in a patch this big. Next, we have gem and stash upgrades. Gems no longer take up inventory space, which will be a huge factor of life considered in this update. This is going to be so nice, meaning that you don't have to, you know, just leave gems on the ground. You can pick up every gem and just have a huge stockpiles of them. This is going to be such a nice feature to have in the game that we've been asking for since launch. Stash can be searched and filtered. Finally, I have been begging, and I mean begging, for this to be added into the game, because it can be so annoying to find the exact things you need. And I'm so glad that they're finally doing this. This will make it so much easier to have multiple builds, you know, to find stuff you want, to save gear to be used for later and then find it again. It's just going to be a huge quality of life update. Now again, this is what they're promoting for Season 2, which is a little worrying, because if we take a look at all this stuff, it's mainly fixes to broken systems and stuff that we should have had in the pre-season. We don't have a lot of information about the actual new content coming for Season 2. Hopefully we get more of that in the future, but as of right now, with what they're showing, I am a little hesitant. All of these changes are great. They're amazing, but they're not seasonal 2 content. They're fixes to the game that were broken. And so I'm hoping that Season 2 isn't just fixing the really broken game they released, and that we actually get some new content for Season 2. If we just get, a broken game fix for Season 2, I don't think it's going to be exciting and have the player retention that they're hoping for. Like, yes, all of these are good, but I don't know if these alone are enough to keep people interested in this game for the months to come. I really, really think they need to introduce some new, fresh content. I'm worried right now with how they've described the Season of the Blood, that it's just going to be a reskin of the Malignant, and basically the vampire powers we're going to get are just going to be reskins of the Malignant hearts. Now, I could be wrong. Maybe it's a totally new system, totally new, everything. And I'd be super happy if it was, but I am a little optimistic. And we'll just have to see in the future what this season actually holds. But for right now, this is the information that we have. All right, next, let's take a quick look at the upcoming patch 1.1.3. Now, we got an early release of the patch notes on August 25th, and let's take a quick look at what they're changing. Now, there is one big change happening in patch 1.1.3, and that is crowd control changes. Now, you might be worrying, oh no, they're changing your crowd control on enemies, and that is not true. They're changing the crowd control that enemies afflict on you. So you don't have to worry about crowd control in your build. They're not changing any of that. They're changing how enemies can crowd control you, basically meaning stuns, freezes, and stuff like that. So let's go over what the actual changes are. We have made various changes to monsters' ability and elite affixes that apply crowd control effects, including cold enchanted elites that attack in quick succession. Ghost archers, snake brutes will no longer proc the cold enchantment on every hit. So basically what was happening is you could get basically chain frozen over and over again until you died. You couldn't do anything about it. It was incredibly annoying. And overall, it just felt completely busted and wrong. You shouldn't be able to get chain CC'd over and over again. So it looks like they're taking some effects and making it so that won't happen as often, so you won't get hit with that proc every single time they hit you. Chilling Wind will respawn overlapping walls less often. Basically, with the Chilling Wind, you could get trapped where, you would dodge out of one and get put in right in the middle of the other one, basically also chain CCing you, making it so you're incredibly slow, and if you didn't have a dodge up, it would actually completely freeze you, and you would most likely die. So this is overall another great change. The stun ability from the Cannibal Gorger can now be more easily avoided, overall just making another change so you don't get CC'd quite as often. Increase the cooldown on the Cold Goatman Ice Pillars, another change so you don't get CC'd as often. Reduced the amount of chill applied from the Cold Spider attack, and reduced the stun duration from the Snake Eyes from 1.5 to 1.25. Other changes that reduce how often the players can be targeted by crowd control. Now, if we take a look at the developer notes here, these changes are aimed at players having less time being crowd controlled and receiving more recovery time after being crowd controlled, especially at higher world tiers. This is a change that really did need to happen, and I'm glad they're introducing this as a patch and not a feature for Season 2. Basically, what was happening is in some cases, you were just chain CC to where you couldn't do anything in the game. It didn't feel great, and overall, it was quite annoying to deal with in reality. Now, we do have some other changes. The Death Explosion from Fire Enchanted monsters releases one less wave and deals 20% less damage. Now, this is just going to make it so the Fire Enchanted monsters aren't so dangerous after you kill them, which I think is a good thing. It's quite annoying to actually kill the mob and then die to their death effects. It can be quite annoying. Glad they made this change, because the fire monsters, you had to be really careful not to die to them after you killed them. The damage from Bloated Corpse Fiend Charges attack has been reduced by 14%, another really annoying thing that could happen in the game where basically you could just get instantly killed from the Bloated Corpse Fiend. So overall, I'm glad these changes were made, and this is going to be a very, very nice quality of life that you will actually feel in the game. Now, some small other changes, they changed how affixes sort on items so it's easier to compare. Some stuff like that. They made it so that when you filter your Codex of Power, it will actually remember the previous selected filter, so you don't have to do that every single time. And besides that, just basically a ton of bug fixes that were basically kind of broken. Now, they did some small changes to where apparently some skills of power are being applied on monsters and available to other players. They basically fixed that so it wasn't happening anymore. And of course, if you want to read the full patch notes, they will be down in the description below. Now, other than that, they made a few small UI changes and some miscellaneous changes. Overall, a pretty small patch. Now for patch 1.1.3, I think this is probably the smallest major patch that we've had, but overall a lot of good changes in this. I'm glad, again, this was a patch and not a feature for Season 2. I still have my doubts about Season 2, but we'll talk about that in a future video. Thank you everybody for watching. I hope you guys are filled in on the Diablo 4 news, and I hope to see you guys in a future video.